What's going on, peeps? We're back to discussing the Tally Hall fandom's favorite Australian, Chonny Jash. A man who certainly makes dumb music on the surface for smart idiots to overly interpret into something deeper. These covers don't just change the sound, he changes the whole song. To get more context on this guy, check out my previous video to be caught up. Alright, where were we? Oh yeah, part 2. Chonny's momentum only continued with The Bidding and Mind Electric surpassing 1 million views, advancing his subscriber count to 250,000 in the summer, only helped by his covers being spread on platforms like TikTok. Unfortunately, it's not all positivity from the Tally Hall community. His covers have been criticized for being too edgy and cringe. Thankfully, Chonny is a chill individual who can certainly take criticism, so this didn't bother him as much as seen by his Reddit posts. With the Tally Hall arc on pause, he focused on his next project of originals based on Gothic horrors. The Gothic horror, or the novel Lyric Hunt, appears to be a theatrical performance gathering various characters from Gothic literature. There's even a cover of the classic Monster Mash to wrap it all up. It was released on June 25th, 2023. Spoiler warning, by the way. Starting off with a short introduction to the show that immediately leads us into the electro-pop rock, The Ballad of Dr. Jekyll, with pretty keys, pounding percussion, and heartfelt singing. This is inspired by Dr. Henry Jekyll from the 1886's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Described by the narrator as a story of duality and judgment, virtue and vice, sorrow and wildness, lamentation and resignation, indignation and contempt, and the challenges of compromise or its complete lack. Scientist Dr. Henry Jekyll creates a potion that transforms him into Mr. Edward Hyde, an embodiment of his darker side. One day, Jekyll begins to lose control as Hyde's actions become increasingly violent, resulting in the murder of Sir Danvers Carew with a heavy cane. The transformations start occurring spontaneously, and Jekyll realizes he can no longer suppress Hyde. Chonny's lyrics capture Dr. Jekyll's internal struggle, wondering whether the pain is worth the freedom he gains from becoming Mr. Hyde. From here we get descriptions of his failing attempts to maintain control, his growing anger and remorse, and the realization that his split existence is destroying him. In the end, to prevent Hyde from permanently taking over, Jekyll takes his own life, leaving behind a confession that reveals the horrifying truth of his dual identity. A fate he is fine with as long as Hyde goes down with him. This story proves that there is good and evil in everyone. It comes down to how you handle both sides of yourself. Only proven on the next, much more darker sounding track, the Mr. Hyde Jive, that explores Mr. Edward Hyde's destructive intentions, warning everyone if you cross paths with him, it'll be your last night. The off-kilter wild production choices and Jash's sinister vocal style reminds me of That Handsome Devil, actually. It's true that the two are not different from each other. Jekyll created Hyde in his own image to divide himself into two distinctive personalities to live a life free from his vices, separating his dark side. He was being too cautious. Jekyll was known as a respected, society-abiding man. He had it all, but it still wasn't enough. His curiosity got the best of him when he found that potion, and now he's unleashed a monster into the world, unleashed from deep inside of him. The way Hyde taunts him about death is even more haunting given the ending. There are parts about ourselves that are best left sealed, never meant to be known. Next up, we explore the mind of Count Dracula from Dracula. Dracula performs the Wilhelmina waltz in his strong Eastern European accent to celebrate his love for her over a circle of aggressive drums, strings, eerie organs, and bassy synthesizers. Wilhelmina is a love interest of his, bitten 3 times by Dracula and made to drink his blood, a process that will turn her into a vampire upon her death unless Dracula is destroyed. These lyrics see Dracula tricking Mina into this process, disguising his evil intentions with acts of love. It's almost a message of being cautious about who you fall in love with, as you never know if they have a dark secret or malicious intentions. Meanwhile, his servant Renfield cautions Wilhelmina about the dangers of Dracula, advising her against yielding to his influence. Dracula continues to tempt her, offering entry into a realm where time holds no sway and mortality is surpassed. It looks like Dracula succeeds with his plan to acquire his vampire wife, leaving Renfield's skull crushed after refusing to obey his advances. Glitch Pop influenced a Styrian Rhapsody tells us about another vampire story surrounding Carmilla. Carmilla is invited to stay at a young woman Laura's family castle in Styria after a carriage accident. Women in the surrounding towns begin to fall ill and die mysteriously. During this time, Carmilla and Laura grow close, but Laura starts having nightmares about a beast biting her in her chest, symbolizing Carmilla draining her blood. Eventually, it's revealed that Carmilla is actually Countess Mercia Karnstein, an ancient vampire. Laura, her father, and General Spielsdorf, who lost his daughter to the vampire, band together to find and kill her, staking her heart, cutting off her head, and burning her body. To this day, Laura never fully recovered from Carmilla's traumatic behavior. This song feels like a critique of how people spun this story to be about a villainization of lesbians that was common in the 70s. I mean, come on, this story about two females falling in love and the father getting mad and killing the supposed vampire? Quite the statement. Given the amount of lesbian-related movies this story later inspired, I can see why this novel reads a lot like an anti-lesbian repertoire, as Chonny points out with the track. Bringing us to a dubstep rock combination, The Monster's Lament, retelling the classic story of Frankenstein from the viewpoint of Adam, the monster, with demonic vocal layering. The song details Adam's experience of being rejected, isolated, and betrayed by his creator Victor Frankenstein. It displays Adam's unrecognized pain and sadness as he tries to survive in a society that fears him because of his monstrous appearance. Despite wishing for acceptance, Adam becomes overwhelmed by bitterness and desires revenge against Victor and humanity for their harsh treatment and neglect, making himself more of a monster, sadly. The lyrics vividly capture Adam's inner turmoil, ranging from feelings of loneliness and longing for companionship to his desired decision to retaliate against those who have harmed him. I've always seen this story from the perspective of someone who is relentlessly bullied for their appearance that often leads to the person wanting to take revenge instead of just accepting themselves or ignoring it. There's a clear insecurity problem, but when you're bullied as much as Adam was, you can't be shocked they drive themselves crazy to the point where they start killing everyone. Moral of the story, don't bully people because you never know what they could become. Following this tale is a 7-minute symphonic ballad piece intensifying as it goes on, an elegy for one Roderick Usher, or the Haunted Palace, sung by the performance's narrator about the House of Usher from The Fall of the House of Usher. The Haunted Palace is a poem by Edgar Allan Poe, composed for the character Roderick Usher. Our narrator here is the unknown friend, giving us a look inside the household. The narrator arrives at the crumbling mansion and finds his friend, Roderick Usher, in deep despair and madness. Roderick plays a sorrowful tune and recites a chilling poem about a once majestic palace now in ruins. The story highlights the close bond and shared suffering between Roderick and his twin sister, Madeline, who is permanently buried due to her catalepsy. As the narrator attempts to counsel Roderick, supernatural events occur, leading to Madeline's return from the grave, the simultaneous death of the twins, and the eventual collapse of the house. Whatever connection they had as twins led to this tragic conclusion where Roderick wished to be in the same place as his sister. The narrator rushed out the house, surviving the collapse. Overall, we tackle the struggle with isolation, especially when it's someone you've lived with your entire life. You wish to be with them no matter where they are, and it kills you that they're gone. It doesn't help that the family was incredibly mentally ill. With that heavy section out of the way, we approach the interlude that announces the performance's main Gothic theme has concluded, but encourages the audience to stick around for 2 more different acts. This promise is fulfilled in 2 songs, which feature 2 songs that are very different from the rest of the album and each other. I guess Chonny got sick of the Gothic themes and wanted to do something similar with other storybook icons, such as the tropical anthemic vibes of the Dead Man's Sea Shanty inspired by the young boy Jim Hawkins from Treasure Island. This one is based on the lyrics of Dead Man's Chest from the novel, using them in the chorus and bridge. Chonny took them and pretty much finished the song in a way he felt like would have worked in context. Another lengthy one discussing Hawkins' wild journey with a a crew of pirates. Chonny even puts on the stereotypical Western country English accent pirates have. Arr, matey. Jim starts off as a modest young bartender who stumbles upon a treasure map. He joins a crew that includes the crafty Long John Silver and embarks on a journey to find the hidden riches. Along the way, Jim faces moments of betrayal, especially when he overhears Silver planning a rebellion. The phrase 15 men on the dead man's ship is seen as a warning. Despite the treachery, Jim outsmarts the pirates with the help of Ben Gunn and successfully secures the treasure. Similar to the story of Dracula, you must be cautious about who you associate with, as you never know when they'll sink their teeth in and betray you at any moment. Thankfully, the young boy was able to recognize the malicious tactics, escape the rebellion, and secure the treasure. I found this tale to be a whole lot more positive than the tragic goth horror section. Maybe this is why it was split. Taking us to another cryptic progressive art pop piece with harsh buzzing synths and various electronic breakdowns, Ode of the Cog, inspired by Winston Smith from 1984. Literally? This covers Smith's defiance against a tyrannical regime that controls one's thoughts and history. Despite the danger of thinking independently, Winston persists in asserting truths like the undeniable fact that 2 + 2 = 4. Is this regime stupid or something? He finds comfort in Julia, his fellow rebel and love interest, amidst their rebellion against the party's manipulation of truth and memory. The chorus symbolizes the party's efforts to distort reality. As Winston confronts torture and indoctrination in room 101, he briefly wavers but ultimately reaffirms his commitment to the truth and resistance before his tragic fate. While the story ends in his death, I still found this message, like the last story, to be positive, all about standing up for what you believe in and dying a martyr just to prove it. Concluding with a soulful encore of the classic Monster Mash sung by all the characters from the show, wrapping up the album. It starts with Chonny's exclamation of why he created this record, pretty much identifying himself as the narrator. We see this grand event where all the monsters and mythical beings come together. It ends with an inviting message to embrace the fun and uniqueness of
the Monster Mash,
celebrating diversity and collaboration. Just tell them Chonny sent you. A record that works as all fictional stories do, to tell cautionary stories and entertain. I was entertained. For the next 8 months, Chonny would be locked in recording his next project, The Power Hour. Leaning more on symphonic rock with less dubstep influence from his previous projects, it is going to be a collection of 4 EPs based on covers of Tim Minchin, That Handsome Devil, Willwood, and his own original Chonny Jash material. In the meantime, he released a cover of Cage the Elephant's most famous song, Ain't No Rest for the Wicked, that reached over 200,000 views, further expanding his channel's reach. It wasn't just weird theatercore acts he was covering. Eventually, we get our first taste of Chonny's Power Hour, starting off with the Tim Minchin Power Hour, released on August 19th, 2023. I wasn't familiar with Minchin's work before this EP. Let me know if a video is worth it. He appears to be a man of 1,000 interests like politics, acting, comedy, and of course music. Both Tim and Chonny are Australian musicians, so this makes complete sense. They have the Aussie connection, eh? Tim's songs are certainly lighthearted, giving Chonny the challenge to recreate his songs into something deeper. The first 3 tracks are part of a trilogy known as Ego. Unlike Tim's original, which combines I'm in a Cage and Rock and Roll Nerd into a single piece, Chonny splits it into 3 acts: Cage, Art, and Nerd. Cage is about, well, being in a cage. Maybe it's about Hart's experience in a jail cell after shooting at Mind. Those mixture of vocals in the first verse could be connected to his mind, heart, and soul's voices. Now, he could be doing deeper things with this song, like relating it to himself a bit more, but instead, he just made a song about being confined. Love that synthesizer solo at the beginning, leading to this chaotic synth rock atmosphere using a stronger Australian accent. Art starts with simple piano chords before coming alive, with each second passing in a similar electronic rock groove. It expands on being trapped a bit more now that he's an influencer. He feels like now that music has become his main source of income, it's his job to make this stuff now. Despite how much work and care he puts into these lyrics, he still feels like he is only there for his audience's entertainment, believing nobody understands him, which contradicts that lyric in the first song about none of this being deep. It turns out that first song was kinda deep. It just needed more context, only confirmed after that random dance break with the part of Cage being included in the track's outro. It's all about him, y'all, sorry. Piano rock ballad Nerd displays Chonny's desires of being a rock star, but instead he's making songs not a lot of people will hear. It's almost Chonny laying out all of his insecurities about his music, claiming it doesn't have depth, it's self-centered, so he sings in third person, and he'll never be a rock star legend like David Bowie. He brings up his own personal struggles about being lower middle class, not having much to say about it, never having a girlfriend, and not spending enough time with his mates. Why does he say all this? Because he isn't the person he wants himself to be, and he knows that. He has no problem admitting that. You can hate him, but he doesn't care. Chonny is just another wannabe rock and roll nerd. Always will be. Who knows, this could be Chonny hoping to prove himself wrong in the future. We'll have to see. If he's making progressive rock songs like these with smooth transitions into each section and impressive use of each instrument, he certainly has the highest levels of potential. Nearly forgot these are covers, honestly. The last two are pretty simple. Grew on Me sees Chonny alter the meaning of a song without modifying its lyrics, harmony, melody, or structure as usual. The original is based on a complicated relationship with a romantic partner using many similes to describe the bad effects of accidentally falling in love with someone, where as the track goes on it seems silly before you realize how much passion Tim has for his wife by the end. In the context of Chonny's cover, it's all about his audience. They have overwhelmed him, but at the end of the day, he appreciated having them more as time went on. Not Perfect is about embracing the various aspects of your life, your songs, the earth, your house, and your body. Even if they aren't perfect or functioning as you want them to be, they are still yours, and you should love yourself. Whether it's your mind, soul, or heart. Not perfect, but they are mine. Man, the line "I've spent so much time hating it, but it never says a bad word about me" cuts deep. I can see why it's a fan favorite, being the first of his covers to make his audience cry. He put together a literal symphony with this one, alongside the most gentle, heartfelt vocals I've heard from him so far. Somebody book this man to produce a movie soundtrack, I'm serious. Also, get him in the studio with Mariana's Trench. If you know, you know. Chonny, you're a liar. These songs run deep. Up next is the That Handsome Devil Power Hour. Thanks for the retweet, by the way. This is one of his favorite bands, with their album Your Parents Are Sellouts being up there with his favorite albums ever. Using those surf and psychedelic rock elements found in the band's music, this was released on October 13th, 2023. The original Shut Up You Stupid always reminds me of Shut Up and Dance, for being like, shut up, stop overthinking, and be my frickin' man. Right away, I loved the way he tried to match God Forbid's unique supervillain vocal style. He honestly sounds like a younger version of the frontman. Chonny's version, Taylor Swift is shaking in her boots, is him wishing he was in love, obviously, but he fears that if he was to walk up to a man at a bar, the guy would be like, "I don't like men," before laughing with his friends about it. An experience that pansexuals like himself are familiar with. Rejection hurts, but humiliation only stings more on top of it. Instead, he turns to himself. He can hold his own hand and keep his mind off love. Evil People is the funkiest Chonny song I've heard, with that slick bass line and elements of disco. A fairly normal cover otherwise, with the same themes of living in a world of evil people and attempting to survive. Back to the regular scheduled weirdness is Savages, where the original seemed to be about using drugs to fill in an unidentified void in God Forbid's heart, driven by the current economy and a lack of purpose. With this cover, I think the void in Chonny's heart is driven by his own depression, looking for something like drugs to make it all go away, worrying about the savages who put down seemingly weak people like him. A drink to death once again follows this man who believes drinking himself to death is the best way to deal with his intense loneliness and pain. The lyric changes from he to she implies Chonny could be talking about himself here. Of course, we end off with Chonny's Inferno. He certainly matched the playful instrumentation. If you don't know what the original song is about, I warned you there will be spoilers in this video. A man named Charlie who is barred from entering heaven because he performed good deeds solely to gain access, not out of true kindness. The difference here is that Chonny doesn't even want to try to get to heaven, and certainly doesn't expect himself to after all of his criticism of religion in general. I'll admit that line about him hoping God wasn't paying attention to him and he could sneak his way into heaven was really funny. The way he implies his attempt to seduce the angels into getting to heaven is outlandish as well. Sorry to break it to you, God is always watching, buddy. He changes hell from a place of horror and torture to a place that celebrates casual sin and only punishes those who commit serious crimes. Okay, this has gotta be blasphemy. This hell isn't full of bad people, it's where those who couldn't get into heaven go, so they just hang there. Torture is only for the truly bad people. Interesting flip. Then we get the Willwood Power Hour. You see, the last time I talked about Will, I made this embarrassment of a video leading to myself becoming a lot more careful when it comes to research. I cropped a lot of information out from the original, but I just didn't understand that man's songs at all, despite the answers being out there. Yeah, I'm a dumbass. Here's my chance to redeem myself, I guess. Leaning on the dark cabaret craziness of Wood's material, it was only a matter of time this would happen given Chonny's own chaotic production choices. Laplace's angel head would wonder about his moral standing, concerned that his past hurts might inherently cause harm to others. For Chonny, this song depicts a morally questionable individual attempting to rationalize and excuse their wrongdoing. Unlike Wood, I don't believe he's referring to himself here. When the lyrics mock someone else, the person being criticized seems to be different from Chonny. To be honest, I'm the most surprised about how Jash was able to match Wood's gut-wrenching screams. The take on Tomcat disposables is surprisingly wholesome. We get the original story about a mouse struggling to survive, facing hunger along the way. Instead of a sad outcome where the mouse is poisoned and dies, we get a good ending, where the mouse receives food and survives. As sad as the original is, it's good to have something like this in comparison. Even the instrumentation sounds a lot happier with those enchanting keys and brighter vocals. Thermodynamic Lawyer was about a toxic relationship with Chonny using a similar singing style that I'm sure killed his throat after the recording process, flipping it to be about Chonny's own self-hatred, expressing contempt towards himself and grappling with his own ego and failures. And If I Did It, You Deserved It was about a character who is highly self-centered, fully aware of this trait, and unapologetically defending their ego. However, Chonny takes a less defensive stance compared to the original, with several lines from Will's version that originally justified the singer's egotism, now replaced by self-deprecating remarks. Both versions mock egotistical people, but Chonny just made it more obvious and silly, concluding with Memento Mori, we're all gonna die and we should accept that fact. Not much changes in the lyrics besides Chonny adding in additional phrases, rest in peace or pieces that won't even align. Impressive collection of covers here that shows Chonny's incredible way of taking someone else's song and making it his own. Like if you just show someone completely random this cover, you'd think it's their own song given how much effort is put into this. Finally, here's the Chonny Jash Power Hour based on his own original songs from the old abandoned SoundCloud. That's right, remade versions of old demos with that modern symphonic rock touch. Chonny is covering himself. It appears that things aren't going well for Chonny as he screams Mayday, feeling hopelessly stuck in a state of depression, wondering if anyone is out there. Screams that remind me of Tyler Joseph. That's a compliment, by the way. He fears there is nobody who can hear his cries, or they just don't care. The only people that can listen to his vents are his audience. He has been dedicating so much time and effort to himself and his music that he is now experiencing burnout. Enjoyed the roaring bassier guitars on Don't Take It Personally that focus on an excuse used by a former love interest of his to reject him. Don't take it personally, I'm afraid of love. Chonny seems to take it personally given we have the song now. Let's get over it by taking hallucinogens? Goodness, thankfully towards the end we see this desire for improvement until he feels he deserves love. Maybe this whole time, Chonny was the one afraid of it. The haunting reverb touches of Push are sung from the perspective of the inner voice of the person pushing others away, compared to the original which was from the perspective of those being pushed away. This voice urges him to stop these actions, trying to convey that it's a mistake. The last line could be about himself. This next version of you will be better than the man you were before when you change. Along with a music video where he is getting charcoal soup and confetti poured and thrown on him, possibly representing this attempt to clean himself and overcome his struggles, hoping to celebrate after when he does. Compelled by Hindsight has several lyrical references to previous covers and the pressure to be authentic in the fear of being genuinely exposed. This is likely why he's making these callbacks to the songs he loves or made that had some sort of purpose in his life. By the end, he wants to improve his life, leave behind past troubles, and finally start living fully. Living your life is better than quitting it. Ending off with the art pop overwhelmingness of The Lie of Black and White, about accepting who you truly are and breaking free from whatever others expect of you. At first, he was losing sleep over who he was before going public about his queerness and feeling much better better about himself because of it. If he can do it, you can too. Chonny wanted to become a musician, likely sacrificing hours of his time to power through rounds of music brainstorming for his own enjoyment, and the fans he knows are dedicated to hearing him out. Since then, he's continued to put out originals and covers, gearing up for his next big project, I'd assume. I find it admirable that this dude has racked out 40,000 subscribers out of passion for his favorite artists. Music is clearly important to Chonny, and finding some sort of success out of it must be heartwarming. While the heights of his Tally Hall covers haven't been matched yet, I sure hope Chonny can, as this dude is truly a talented musician with stellar ideas that haven't been replicated before. He may call his music dumb, but I think he may be more of a genius than he takes credit for. I'm sure his fanbase agrees. If you enjoyed this video and want more over-the-top craziness to get covered, give me more suggestions, you freaks. Make sure to like the video and subscribe for more bass content. Chonny, if you're seeing this again, great work on the music. You're gonna go far, I'm sure of it. I'll see you all in the next one. Make sure to love all, and peace.
Love me, I love you.